So in past couple of years, India has pushed a lot for its bid at the UN Security Council for permanent membership. But in our way, China has been the biggest hurdle. Though there was a time when India had not this hurdle, when China was not even a member in the United Nations. There were two offers for India by two different permanent member countries, and in this video, we are going to discuss how India missed that bus. This is Raj and let's get into it. So, the first offer to India was made by the United States of America in 1950. That might have surprised you because we have all heard that how during India-Pakistan war in 1971, the US staunchly supported Pakistan. But that was not always the case. Or I might say, it was not that US didn't extend an olive branch to India before going the Pakistan route. Just after India's partition, US had a very neutral kind of stance in regards to both India and Pakistan. After World War II, a Cold War started between Russia, that was the Soviet Union, and USA. And these superpowers wanted other countries in their camp. So in 1950, US State Department, which handled US foreign policy, offered India its first offer to join the permanent membership. And the proof of this offer became undeniable from letter exchanges between Nehru and his sister Vijaya Lakshmi Pandit. Vijaya was working as India's ambassador to United States between 1949 to 1951. In August 1950, in Vijaya's letter to her brother Nehru, she mentioned that currently in the State Department, the Americans are big on removing China from the permanent membership and they want us as a permanent member instead of China. She further added, "Last week, I had an interview with John Foster Dulles and Philip Jessup and both brought up this topic. Also, I heard last night that Dulles has asked influential columnists of Washington Post to build up public opinion along these lines." So, in this letter, Vijaya was telling that the US State Department wants India and we can see how it was pushing agenda through its media machinery to build consensus around this idea. Now, you might be wondering why the State Department was so eager to give India a permanent seat. An expert had guesstimated the reasons. First of all, the era was marked by fierce struggle between communism and capitalism. The US was the champion of democracy and had an immense hatred for the communists. And in June 1950, Korea War between North and South Korea began. On one side, North Korea was supported by Soviet Union and People's Republic of China. So it was the communist side, and on the other side, South Korea was supported by the Americans, and this was kind of a democracy side. And what happened in the UN was interesting. India supported two resolutions in alignment with the US. In the first resolution, India criticized North Korea's decision to use force against South Korea. So basically, North Korea was trying to unify the Korean peninsula in this war, and it was using aggression to achieve its objective. So in this case, India opposed the North Koreans. Again, after few weeks, in the end of June 1950, in the second resolution, US wanted to offer whatever help that was necessary to South Korea. Arms, ammunition, tanks, everything. Though reluctantly, India again voted along US on this resolution too. However, in third resolution, on 7 July 1950, when US wanted full command over United Nations forces, India voted against the USA. And even though India voted against the third resolution, US leaders were kind of okay with it. They were of the view that at least Nehru is lining up with us against our fight against communism. And the feeling can be inferred from US State Department statements. For example, when Nehru gave his speech in Indonesia, the US State Department mentioned that speech and said, when Nehru spoke against communism in his Indonesia trip, he served our interests admirably. And therefore, John Foster was eager to push forward with this offer. But who is this guy? And why to take his offer so seriously? So, Dulles was not some common diplomat. In 1950, he was US Senator from New York and he was advisor to the State Department when the Democrats were in power. And after 3 years, when Republican came to power, he became the Secretary of State, which is equivalent to India's foreign minister role. So, we can say he was a legit guy and his offer was serious too. So, what was Nehru's reply to this offer? Just after a week, Nehru replied to Vijaya's letter. In this letter, you would be shocked to know that Nehru said, if this offer is at the cost of taking China's permanent seat, then no, we are not going in at the cost of China. Actually, at that time, PRC, that is People's Republic of China, was not a UN member. Instead, ROC was there, which we today know as Taiwan. Taiwan was the permanent member. And instead of looking out for his own country, Nehru was hell-bent on making China a member of UN. Not only a member, he wanted PRC to be the permanent member. And in his letter to Vijaya, he iterated the same feelings. So he said, If we accept the offer, it would mean some kind of a break between India's and China's relation. And instead of accepting this offer, we shall go on pressing for China's admission in the UN and Security Council. This was Nehru's reply. You can pause and read the extra part if you want. In the end of his letter, he wrote, "Though India is certainly entitled to a permanent seat in the Security Council, but we are not going in at the cost of China." No one knows why there was so much illusion in Nehru's mind. It was not that he was not warned against China. The then Home Minister, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, had constantly warned Nehru against China. The US offer was made in August 1950, and in November 1950, Patel in his letter had cautioned Nehru against China. Patel was of the view that China has already attacked and captured Tibet in 1950, and it would not stop there. It would surely reject the boundary agreement which was made between the Britishers and Tibetan authorities. And surely, someday, the Chinese are going to pressure India. And Nehru, probably being delusioned by the Hindi-Chini Bhaichara, seemingly overlooked Patel's perspective and rejected the US offer. So this was the story of the first offer. Now where did the second offer come from? And who proposed it? This time it was a friend who wanted India to join, and it was none other than the Soviet Union that we today know as Russia. In 1955, Nikolai Bulganin, who can be compared same to as the Prime Minister of the Soviet Union, visited New Delhi. Bulganin said to Nehru that while we are discussing the general international situation and reducing tension, we propose suggesting at a later stage India's inclusion as the sixth member of the Permanent Security Council. In which Nehru replied, "Perhaps Bulganin know that some people in USA have suggested that India should replace China in the Security Council." Nehru further added, "This is to create trouble between us and China. We are of course wholly opposed to it." So while in the previous offer, the US had offered to replace China with India, but in this one there was no such pressure. The Soviets wanted India as a sixth member, so there was no point of irking China, and still Nehru rejected it. Now, the pro-Nehru side says that, oh, this offer was not serious because Bulganin agreed so quickly with Nehru's point. Maybe the Soviets were trying to test what's in Nehru's mind. While the Nehru critic countered this by saying that we cannot interpret this as a non-serious offer. We cannot expect our friend to push our cause when we ourselves fail to recognize that this offer was in our interest. So that's why Bulganin did not press India on this issue and agreed to Nehru very quickly. And when it came to China, Nehru's policy were based on full of illusion and false assumptions for which India had to pay in 1962. Nehru ascribed the American offer was to disturb India-China relation, and he argued that any consideration to revise UN Charter to add India should be given only importance after adding China first. Meanwhile, Nehru was following this delusion that both India and China have been oppressed by the colonizers, therefore both countries should support each other. On the other hand, China was constructing its infrastructure along the India-China border and finally attacked in 1962. And during that time, Nehru, who used to be so vehemently against the US, had to plead for its help against the Chinese. So this was a story of how India lost a golden opportunity and how we should learn to not to be delusioned again. And with that, this is the end of this topic. This is Raj signing off. Please like and subscribe for more.